Start. Kufnun Vav. It's 156a, and maybe 20 lines up. We're starting with Amalu Reb Chanina. The line starts Yiskri. It's like one word in. So we've been discussing something that was in Rabbi Shabbos Levi's notebook. Naftali asked, why is it specifically coming from the notebook? I tried to look into it, what's going on. Maybe there was more of a leniency to write these things down. I don't know. They were writing already then. Shabbos Levi is after Rabbi. I don't know why it's being told over like this, that someone is reading it out of his notebook. So Amalu Reb Chanina says to the students, Amalahu, right, the plural, Puko Amrlei Bar Levi. Go out and tell Bar Levi, that means go tell Rabbi Shabbos Levi, Le Mazel Yengarim, Le Mazel Shagarim. It's not the mazel is like the luck, the charm. It's not the luck of the day, because Rabbi Shabbos Levi said it depends if you're born on a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Each day has a different type of character. It has to do with the hour. There's actually hours. We had this once before, that every hour of the day it switches to one of the.
We had it on brachas.
1 second. Tell me that again. I don't hear so.
We had it in brachas. We had it by the Alexander the Great. Right before that. You're talking about the cholesterol.
About the masalas?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. We also had it somewhere in Shabbos. I don't remember how long ago.
Oh, I don't remember that.
I forget how that came in. But over here it says that it's the Masal Shah. So we're going to have seven, I guess, constellations. There's 7 stars that are shining, and each one is going to have a different characteristic. So, Haiman de Bechama, someone who's born under the constellation of the sun, Yegvar Zivsan, he'll be a radiant person, shining. Yechal Midilei, he'll eat from his own, Shasim Midilei, drink from his own. Rashi says, like the sun, that doesn't enter into his neighbor's territory to shine at night. Just does his own thing. It means he doesn't shine when it's the moon's territory. So, V'razai Galian, but his secrets are going to be revealed. So, in Ganav Matzlach, if he's a thief, he's not going to be successful. Shouldn't take up that profession. So, Haiman de Bekoich of Naiga, someone that's under the constellation of Venus, Yigvarater, is going to be wealthy. The Zanai will be promiscuous. The Zanai Yehei, be promiscuous. My timer, what's the reason for that? Shem Desyal Beinura, because in it is fire, passion. So that's not going to influence him well. Haiman de Bekoichav, someone that's born under the constellation of Mercury, Yigvar Noer, V'chakim, he'll be shining, light and wise. Mishum de Sifra de Chamu, because Safra de Chamu, because he's the scribe of the sun. Because he travels next to the sun. Mercury is the closest to the sun, right? Is that how it is? So, what does it mean he's the scribe of the sun? It says he writes down the paths of the sun. He's right next to the sun. Haiman de Belavana, if he's born under the constellation of the moon, Yigvar Saval Moreno, someone that will endure suffering. Banoi b'sasser, he'll build and he'll destroy. Sasser banoi, destroy and build. It's like the moon waxes and wanes. Achal d'lay, he'll eat from what's not his own. Masig gvul, why? Because the moon is sometimes seen during the day. It's not his territory. What's he doing there? V'shasi d'lay, they'll drink from not his own. Razui Kasian, his secrets will be concealed. In Ganav Matzach, if this person will become a thief, he'll be successful. Haiman de B'Shabsai, someone that's born under the constellation of Saturn. Yegever Machshavte B'Telem. Rashi says that Shabsai is like the word Yishbaisu, to cease. If his plans will not be accomplished. Some say that if people try to plan against him, that will be batal. Haiman de B'Tzedek, someone that's born under Jupiter, Yigbar Tzadkan, it's going to be just, righteous. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak B'Tzadkan B'Mitzvahs. He'll also run after doing tzedakah. This is interesting, Rashi. Tzadkan B'Mitzvahs, Rashi says, the curly mitzvah b'chol lashon haggadah. Tzedakah is called a mitzvah. When it says just plain mitzvah, Alter Rebbe quotes this in Tanya. Stam, mitzvah stam is considered tzedakah. I don't know if that's the version of Rashi. Rashi has a word in parentheses there. B'chol lashon haggadah. Okay, Haiman de B'Madim, someone that's born under Mars, Igavar Ashadama. He's going to be someone that spills blood. Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi explains this. It's Reb Chanina that's talking. Right? Reb Chanina is a very early Amayra in Eretz Yisrael. Since Reb Chanina Bar Chama. Yechman held very highly of Reb Chanina. When he passed away, he tore a bunch of clothing, burnt clothing. Rav Ashi is the end of the Talmudic period. He explains, Yomna, what does it mean he's going to spill blood? Well, maybe it'll be a doctor, like a bloodletter. Iganva, maybe it'll be a robber. Itapcha, maybe it'll be a butcher. Imayla, maybe it'll be a mile. But he's going to have one of those jobs. So, Amar Rabba, Anaba Madam Avai. Rabbi says, I don't know what he means to say. He says, Oivei. I don't know if he's saying Oivei or it says obviously not true. He's saying, I was born under the constellation of Mars. So Abaya tells him, Abaya grew up in his house as a student. He says, Abaya, Mar Nami Anish Vikatal, you're also, you give punishments in the court and you kill. Does he really kill? They were killing in the basement. It's funny. It couldn't have been that they were killing then. At a Sanhedrin in Babel. I don't know. Maybe it means that they make a psak and then the best in Shemaila does something.
The note in the Gemara says also by the party. Remember how we killed Reb Zera and then brought it back to life through davening?
Tell me again. I'm sorry, my headphones on my phone.
Rabbi killed Reb Zera and then he did Tchias Nemesim.
Oh.
So that could be part of the thing of spilling.
Aha. That's a good pshat. You hear Yassi's pshat? You're talking about Rabbi and Reb Zera? That Rabbi killed Reb Zera. It's unbelievable. Yitzi's going to say, Yassi, take the rest of the day off. It's a good pshat. It's because Rabbi killed Reb Zera in the Purim story. And he brought him back to life. Very interesting. Problem is, there's a problem on that because it says over here, Anishvik. Maybe not. Maybe you can answer it up. I don't know what Anish means. Okay. Itma Rabbi Chanina Aimer. There's a statement. I have to put that in. To write that down. So that's great. Okay, there's a statement. Rabbi Chanina, we had Rabbi Chanina before. He says, Mazel machke, mazel masher, ish mazel Yisrael. The mazel makes a person wise. and makes him wealthy. And Yesh Mazal Yisrael, it means you can't switch it. That's what it is. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Ein Mazal Yisrael. Rabbi Yochanan says no. Ein Mazal Yisrael. Rabbi Yochanan argues in Rabbi Chanina. Was the Rabbi Yochanan Tamei? Rabbi Yochanan follows his reason. Rabbi Yochanan Minayin Shein Mazal Yisrael. How do we know that there's no Mazal? Shneimar Kayamar Hashem. Al derech hagoyim al tilmedu. Meser shesmayim al tichatu. Tichatu hagoyim mehema. Don't learn from the ways of the nations, from the signs of the heaven. Don't be dismayed, because the nations will be dismayed. What does that mean? Let them. They can worry about that, but you don't have to worry about what it says in the stars. It doesn't affect you. Rav Savarin Mazal Yisrael. Rav agrees with Rabbi Yochanan. Rav in Bavel agrees with Rabbi Yochanan. Damar Rav Yehuda Marav. Rabbi Yehuda is a student of Rav. He says, in the name of Rav Minayin Shein Mazal Yisrael, how do you know that there's no Mazal? You're not stuck with your constellation. It says by Avram Avinu that he took him outside. It says Avram was having a vision, and I guess it was a dream. And he took him outside. Why do you have to take him outside in a dream? You could show him whatever he wants. What is he taking him outside? So Zamara Avram Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's a whole story that was going on. Avram says in front of Hashem, Rabbeinu Shalom, Master of the world, Ben Beisi Yereshesi, my servant is going to inherit me. No, it's going to be your offspring, not your servant. Rabbeinu Shalom says, 1 second. I looked it up. I looked in the constellations. And Avram knew the stars. He says apparently the stars are saying I'm not able to have a son. You got to go out of that. Go out from your constellation. Shein Mazal Yisrael. You're not limited to that. What that means is that prayer and merits can switch it. So Rashi explained. It means that there is a constellation. And if you don't pray, you don't have the merits, then that's what's going to happen. But you're able to switch it. My daitach. What are you seeing? What are you concerned about? The Koi Tzedek B'Mayrav, because Jupiter was on the west. That was the constellation of Avram. It was Jupiter because of Yitzhak Espanav. Lasis Tzedakah Mishpat or whatever. So it has that expression by Avraham Avinu that he was righteous. So you're worried that it's on the west, and the west is more cold, and so therefore you won't be able to have children. No, Madrano Mukminale b'Mizrach. I returned and I put it on the east. Hashem adjusted the stars. Finally, the Ksiv Meheyer b'Mizrach. Tzedek Yikro L'Raglav, who means awakened from the east. The Jupiter calls him Tzedek, I guess means righteousness, calls him to his feet. Okay, so he moved it. Hashem moved it around the constellations for Abraham. And with the Shmuel Nami and Mazal Yisrael, we see also from Shmuel as well that we're not stuck in the constellations. Shmuel was in the north. I was in Nardoi. Rav was in the south, was in Surah, in Bavel. Rabbi Yochanan was in the north of Eretz Yisrael. I'm not sure where Rabbi Chanina lived. But basically, this is 3 out of 4 that hold Ein Mazal Yisrael. Ein Mazal Yisrael. The Shmuel va'Avlet, Shmuel and Avlet, if you remember, Avlet was a non-Jewish scholar. He was a friend of Shmuel. We had him before. Shmuel and Avlet have a Yasmi Vabikalazli. Hanachin Shilagim, I'm sorry. Have a Yasmi. Shmuel and Avlet were sitting. Now, there were these people that were going to the meadow, the marsh. Amalei Avlet l'Shmuel. So Avlet says to Shmuel, "Hi Gabriel Zabayasi. One of that fellow over there, he's going to go. He's not going to come back." That meant he was going to die. Why? Because Tarakle Chivyu Mais is going to be bitten by a snake. Amalei Shmuel. So Shmuel says to Avlet Bar Yisrael, who if he's Jewish, he's going to go and come back. He's going to be fine. Adiyasvi, while they're sitting there. Azulvasi comes back. Miracle. Right? Come Avlate, Shadi Latune. Avlate gets up, he throws off the guy's load. He's carrying, I guess, a load of some wood. They were going to the meadow, so they're probably going to collect twigs or something. Ashkech Bey Chivya, the Pasuk B'Shadi B'Tarti Guvi. He finds a snake that's split in half into two pieces. Amalei Shmuel, Maya Varata, Shmuel says, what did you do? Like, what merit did you do? The guy didn't even realize that there was a snake in his, two snakes now, in two pieces of a snake in his amongst his sticks.
They must have been on the Florida Everglades now.
It wasn't the swamp walk, don't worry. Amalei Kol Yaima have Marmina and Rifte Bahadi Adadi. What do they call this? Potluck. They everyone gives food, and then everyone puts their bread together, and then they split it up. That's how they would have the lunch. So vachlina, and we would eat it. Hoidna. Now havika chadmina d'leavle rifte. There's one fellow that didn't have anything to give. Couldn't really participate in that. Havika michsaf, he was very ashamed, very embarrassed. Aminalahu, I said to them, it means to the group, Anokim nevarmina, I'm going to go around and collect. I guess he's going to go around with the basket. He's going to collect everyone's bread, and then they'll split it. When he came to that fellow that didn't have, I made it as if I was taking from him. He like sort of like fooled them, like as if he's taking bread from this fellow, even though he wasn't giving. So the person shouldn't be embarrassed. You did a big mitzvah. Shmuel said that charity saves from death, not only from a strange death, but even from a regular death. Gives life. Very strange Gemara. Some sort of dishonesty here. So everyone's supposed to be giving. Everyone's supposed to be giving food. There's something missing. The solution would be if the person himself didn't eat. That could be a solution. If the person, someone didn't give food and everyone's taking, and they have this arrangement that everyone's supposed to give, and he fools them. So maybe the guy himself.
Says that he filled it up. My Gemara says he filled the rest of it with his own bread. He made up the difference with his own bread.
Oh, okay, so that's a good pshat.
Yeah.
So he gave extra. So Shavi Nafshay Command Shakli Minei. He made it look like he was taking from him when he was really putting in his own. That's a good pshat. Otherwise, there's a problem here. Yes, he saved him from embarrassment, but it doesn't mean that that's tzedakah. Well, maybe it is tzedakah because he got to eat. Okay. So we see that Shmuel holds that ein mazel Yisrael. Why? Because the person did a mitzvah. He was able to get out of the mazel that being bitten by the snake. And we do Rabbi Akiva Nami in mazel Yisrael. We even see this from Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva Havli Brate. Rabbi Akiva had a daughter. Amala Kaldai, the stargazers, they said, "Hu yaimed Eily beganana tarak lechivyu misa." On the day that she's going to go to the chuppah, on her wedding day, she's going to be bit by a snake. She's going to die. Havidi Gamel Situvi was very concerned about this. I wonder why the Gemara is telling me that. Hu yaima, that day, Shakalta lemich bansa itsasa beguda. She pressed in a pin, a golden pin that was like a plate on her head. into the wall. Isrami, it turned out that Isav Be'eni Dechivya, that it went into the eye of a snake. When she took it out of the well in the morning, she pulled out, it wasn't just the pin, she pulled out the whole snake. It came out. The father says, what did you do special? She says that in the evening, a poor man came. Karya Baba was calling by the door, he was knocking on the door. Everyone was busy with the meal, and no one heard him. I got up. Obviously, I took the I guess it means the food, the table that was given to me. That's what it is. The platter that was given to me. And I gave it to him. He says that you did a mitzvah. Nafak Rabbi Kiva went out and he taught not only from a strange death, it's not just a protection, an insurance from bad occurrences or whatever, mistakes, but even things that were planned by the stars. So even that, even that it protects. We see from Rab Nachman Yitzchak as well. The order here is very interesting. Why do we go from Shmuel to Rabbi Akiva? Jump back a few hundred years. Now we jump forward after Shmuel. What happened with Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak? The Eily de Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar Kaldai Brich Gan V'Hava. The mother of Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak was told by the stargazers, your son's going to be a thief. She never let him go with his head uncovered. Amalei, she said to him, cover your head so that you shall have the fear of heaven. She also davened. That it's a key part in this. She davened. What did she daven for us? She says she davened that the Yetzer Hara shouldn't overtake him. Yeah, this is an amazing piece in the Gemara, that little phrase here, that she davened. So Le'av Yada Amai Karmelei, he didn't really know why she was telling him this. So he didn't know that what the stargazers said. That's also an important part. Can't tell them, else it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have to. You can't say everything. So Yomi Achad, Yosef Kagaris to say Dikla. One day he's sitting and learning. He's sitting under a date tree, a palm tree. Nafal Glima Meiloi Resha. Glima is more like a shawl. It fell off his head. Dali Eine, he lifted up his eyes. Chazil Dikla. He sees the tree. Alma Yitzre, this Yetzer Hara became very strong. Salek went up, Paski L'Kibur B'Shine, and he bit into a cluster of dates with his teeth, straight from the tree. So he climbed up the tree and he bit into the dates. It's because his yarmulke fell off. So his yarmulke fell off, the Yetzer Hara overcame him. So it could be it's more than a yarmulke. Could be it was more. Because if it was just the yarmulke, then it sounds like it was only Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak that was wearing a yarmulke. What about everyone else? So stargazers told him so. He wore a yarmulke, unless maybe the minhag of wearing a yarmulke started after Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak. That could be. Jewish people wear a yarmulke. I know in the Hasidic coloring books of Avram Avinu with the shtreimel. But yeah, okay. So we have a new Mishnah. It says Mechatchina. It's the actual Mishnah. We actually had this yesterday. You're allowed to cut up pumpkins, gourds, in front of an animal so that the animal could eat. Now we have two interpretations how we wanted to learn this Mishnah. We had a Machlekes Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda. If you're allowed to make something into food, Rav Huna held that you were not. Rav Yehuda held that you were allowed to make it into food, but once it was food, then you couldn't touch it anymore. So if it's too difficult to eat these pumpkins, according to Rav Yehuda, then you were allowed to cut it up to make it edible for the animals. That would be Rav Yehuda's pshat. Rashi adds in another point over here. Rashi adds in that staman lav l'maychel behema kaim yela la'adam. It's like the Gemara never mentioned this issue before. We learned this Mishnah before. The Gemara over there didn't throw that in. The Gemara learned before, you're turning it into food for an animal. Rashi now says that there's one other issue here that you should know about. Is that really the luam are meant for human consumption. You're turning it into animal food. Well, we've learned that something that's muktzah, that's mucham la'adam, according to an opinion that holds that you're not allowed to switch it to a different purpose. And others were lenient. Well, it turns out over here that you're allowed to cut it up, even though it was mucham la'adam. So you're allowed to cut this pumpkin. And there's two issues here. One is that you're turning it into food. Rabbi Yehuda holds that you're allowed. Rav Yehuda, that's the Amira. Rav Yehuda holds that you're allowed to turn it into food, as opposed to Rav Huna's pshat in the Mishnah. Another thing is that it's not just because it's muktzah la'adam, it was designated as human consumption. You're still allowed to turn it into animal food. And also you're allowed to cut up a carcass, a dead animal, for the dogs. Now, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we had to learn that this was like elephant, very difficult meat, that it wasn't edible until you cut it up. There's another pshat over there. You were cutting it up for puppies. So it wasn't food until you cut it up. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, this is Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eily, student of Rabbi Akiva. That's Rabbi Yehuda of the Mishnah. He says, not Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he says, he says that if it wasn't dead, then this wasn't prepared for food, for animal food. And he holds that it's keeping this katsoi was set aside not for use, then it's too late. You can't use it even if it dies on Shabbos. Right after Bein HaShemashos, it's too late. When Shabbos came in, it was designated for non-use. It's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yehuda's strict. We'll see more about this. So that's why, why Rashi added in that other issue of what it was prepared for. Okay, Itmar. There's a statement. Now we have parentheses here, which is, I think, an abbreviation of the rabbis that are going to be quoted. So the first rabbi would be Ula, then it would be Rav, and then it would be Levi, and then it would be Shmuel, then I guess the Ches is Rabbi Yochanan, and maybe the Zion is Zeiri.
Yeah, but the second half of it is the people who hold like Rabbi Shimon, not Rabbi Yehuda.
Oh.
The first half is Rabbi Yehuda, the second half is Rabbi Shmuel.
Very good.
It's Shimon. You'll see as it goes, you'll see.
Very nice. Okay, so it goes like this. Amar Ula halachak Rabbi Yehuda. Ula says halachak Rabbi Yehuda. It means he's going to be strict about muktzah. According to Ula was the traveler. He takes halachas from Eretz Yisrael, he brings them to Bavel. He says halachas like Rabbi Yehuda. Let's skip the parentheses for a moment. But Rav savar halachak Rabbi Yehuda. Rav also holds halachas like Rabbi Yehuda. Means we're going to have the strict opinion about muktzah. The things that weren't prepared to be used on Bein Hashmashos, it's too late. You can't use them the whole Shabbos. Where do we see this? Midakarkari dezuzi. We had these reed mats on the ships. What was the issue? The Rab Aser v'Shmuel Shari. Rab said that you can't use them. Well, what was the issue over there with those mats? There's two possibilities. Either they were designated for schaira, for sale, and therefore you don't use them for anything that you have that's set aside that you're going to sell it, then you don't use it for personal use. The other possibility is that the mats were covering types of things that made them dirty, and they were ma'os, they were gross. So that's another muktzah machmas miyas, either huktzah l'schaira or muktzah machmas miyas. So Rab said that it's aser. That means he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, that holds of these other types of muktzah. But Levi savar Rabbi Yehuda. Levi also, Levi we assume is the son of, is the father of Rabbi Shua ben Levi, who's a student of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. He holds the halachas like Rabbi Yehuda, strict about muktzah. You had the Levi, because when Levi, they would bring him an animal on Yom Tov, and they brought it to him because they wanted him to check to see if it was kosher. They had a question in the lungs or whatever. They brought him the animal to look at. He would not look at it, unless it was sitting on the garbage bins. They have to put it down on the garbage, and they would look at it. Why? Maybe it's not going to be kosher. And I won't even be able to give it to the dogs. Now, they shechted it on Yom Tov. You're allowed to shecht on Yom Tov. You're allowed to have fresh meat on Yom Tov. Yom Tov, it's eichel nefesh. You're allowed to cook. You're allowed to shecht. You have to designate those animals before, as we'll see. Whatever, not wild animals, but animals that you have, you're allowed to shecht. And the problem is, this one had a shiloh. Is it kosher or not? So Levi didn't want to look at it, because let's say it's not kosher. What are you going to do? You can't give it to the animals. But Rabbi Yehuda holds it was never designated for that before Yom Tov as animal food. That would be the other opinion that holds that things need to be designated for exactly what it's going to be used. That we only quoted from Rabbi Nechemia. Yossi, what do you have over there? Any comment? Why leklavim lechazia? Why won't it be good for a dog? If a human could eat it if it is kosher. If it's not kosher, you give it to the dog.
Yeah, mine says that it's not, if you designated it for people, and then it's
so that's Rabbi Yehuda would hold that's muktzah as well. That's what we quoted before from Rashi, that the Tanna Kama doesn't hold of that. So Rabbi Yehuda must hold of that. The only thing is, I thought that would.
Can I talking about the machlekes by that part?
May I chip in?
Yeah.
Can I get that question again with the dog and the kosher?
Yeah, we're talking about slaughtering an animal on a holiday.
Right.
And it was meant for human consumption, but it turns out that the animal had some problem in the lungs where it's not going to be considered kosher. So,
but it's still kosher for the human?
Yeah, it won't be kosher for the human. Yeah, it would be kosher for the animals.
So why doesn't
you can't give it
to the? We can't give it to the animal.
You can't give it to the animals. So I was asking why not. So Yossi is explaining.
Okay, good. Okay, I understand. Okay, so I'll hear Yossi.
That's something that was designated for humans. Can't just get switched over to.
Because it's not good enough for the human. Why? It's like just for my little tripping. It's kind of like tzedakah. Like you shouldn't give like the food you don't want in your like cabinet to the poor, like leftovers. Like okay, so it's like a food drive. So go and get like canned beans and all this stuff that you don't want for yourself. That's what I think, but I don't know. I'm a huge amateur. So don't give the tzedakah. So it's not good enough for the human. Why are you gonna give it to the dog? It's like don't give the canned food. Like don't give what you don't want to tzedakah. Give like what you would.
Give the good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. I'm out. Okay. I'm going on mute. Thank you, Essie. Okay.
Ben Stein, take the rest of the day off, sir. Good job.
Thank you. Okay, I'm out. Bye.
I'm going. Now we're going to the other side. Now we're going to the other opinion, where we have opinions that we're going to take the lenient side on muktzah and all of these things, which is the opinion of Reb Shimon. So in other words, we have two students of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yehuda bar Eily and Reb Shimon bar Yochai. And Rabbi Yehuda is very strict, and Reb Shimon is very lenient when it comes to muktzah. So Shmuel, this is easy to remember, Shin and Shin. Shmuel paskins like Reb Shimon. V'af Zeiri savar halacha k'Reb Shimon. The Zeiri was an early Amira in the time of Rav and Shmuel. He also holds like first generation in Bavel. He also holds like Reb Shimon. The Tanana was taught. The Hema Shemesa, and the animal died. You can't move it. Well, I have two possibilities. Why? One possibility is because it wasn't prepared, and that would be muktzah. The other possibility is, Ziri translates it, the behemoth kodshim. It didn't tell me what type of animal it is. So Ziri says, no, it's not an issue of muktzah. Muktzah would have been fine. The issue over here was that it was a sacrifice. Why did Ziri have to tell me that? If it would have been a regular animal, you would be allowed to move it. You see, Ziri doesn't hold of muktzah. Regular animal, even though it died, you would be allowed to give it to even though it wasn't designated before Yom Tov or Shabbos. For the animals, it wasn't designated before Yom Tov for the animals, but it's muktzah. But it's not muktzah. You could give it to the animals. Here, the issue was that it was a sacrifice, and when the sacrifice dies, it can't be redeemed. It can only be redeemed if it has a mum or other things while it's alive. But for Rabbi Yochanan also holds halachas like Reb Shimon. Rabbi Yochanan is in Eretz Yisrael, and he takes the lenient opinion of Reb Shimon. Gemara asks him, does Rabbi Yochanan really say this? Rabbi Yochanan says Allah is like a stam mishnah. That means an anonymous mishnah. When Rabbi Yehuda Anasi set up the mishnayos, he set it up that if he puts a mishnah without any name in it, that's meant to be the halach. And Rabbi Yochanan teaches us that. So now, whatever Rabbi Yochanan says, we can always compare that to stam mishnayos and see if it's accurate. So we have an anonymous mishnah.
You do this to him every time. Every single time he says something, they always argue with him.
Yeah, he gets into trouble because of this.
Oh, he does.
Yeah, it's always Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says halacha k'stam mishnah. Yeah. So every time he says something, we always have a stam mishnah that we can use to ask him. So ein mevaken eitzim min hakeiros. It says that you can't take wood off if you need fire on Yom Tov. You can't take wood off the beams. Or not a beam that broke. Wasn't designated. Big problem. I have a stam mishnah that says that it's muktzah. It wasn't prepared before Yom Tov for firewood. It's just a beam that cracked, and what are you going to do with it? So, well, let's burn it. We'll use it for fuel. You can't, but the Mishnah says you can't use it. That means that there's the issue of muktzah there. But it's a stam Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan holds that there's no issue of muktzah. My answer is Rabbi Yochanan, the way we resolve this is we say that Rabbi Yochanan, that Mishnah, had a name attributed to that Mishnah. It was attributed to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. It's not a stam Mishnah. It's not anonymous. That's our answer. Tashima, another proof. It says Maschilin ba'aremas atevan. When you're coming to burn, to start a fire, it says you start with a heap of straw. But don't start with wood. You don't take the wood. The wood was designated for the season for the fall or for the winter, it was designated. So that's considered muktzah. It was put aside. You should take from the straw, which is right here. So why not? If Rabbi Yochanan doesn't hold of muktzah, take from the wood. The Gemara answers, Hasan ba'arzi v'ashuchi the muktzah machmas chisaron kes. Afilu Reb Shimon moide. Very interesting. Big rule. Even though Reb Shimon doesn't hold of muktzah, things that are designated, but there is one type of muktzah Reb Shimon agrees to. It's called muktzah machmas chisaron kes, things that are very precious. What is this that's very precious? Well, this is a type of wood. It's a cedar wood or a fir tree. That it's a very special wood. You don't use it for burning. I don't know what types of wood we have, like mahogany or something, some fancy woods. You don't use that. That's not firewood. That's for decorative tables and things. Okay, Tashma, another raya. We're going to bring a stam mishnah. Ein mashkin v'sheichten as a midbariyes, aval mashkin v'sheichten as a baites. Don't give to drink and shecht wild animals on Yom Tov, but you can shecht animals that come into the house, that come into the civilization. What it means to drink? Well, before you shechted an animal, you would give it something to drink because that would make the skinning of it easier after the shechita. Well, why can't you do those wild animals? Because they weren't designated to be shechted. That means they're considered muktzah. We have a stam mishnah that we hold of muktzah. Rabbi Yochanan stam achrin ashkach. The Gemara answers that Rabbi Yochanan knows that there's a stam mishnah over there, but the problem is that the solution is that there's another stam mishnah that he's following. How does it go? It says Beishama Yomrim Magbian Mal Shulchan Atzamas Uklipin. Beishamai says that you're allowed to clean the table, you're allowed to take off the bones and the peels. Now, the problem with that would have been is that originally those bones were attached to meat. That meat was food that was designated for humans. Now those bones are made for are now for animals, but it switched. It started off that the whole piece was for humans. And now it's switched that it's for animals. And Beishamai says that it's not considered muktzah, even though it's switched. Beishamai has like a lenient opinion here that it's not muktzah.
How is it a stam mishnah of Beis Hillel and Beishamai?
We're going to say, that's a good question. We're going to say that Beishamai, b'makom Beis Hillel ain't a mishnah. Beishamai doesn't count, which leaves us with an anonymous mishnah.
Well, we also have Beis Hillel.
I'm sorry?
We also have Beis Hillel.
We should follow Beis Hillel, but we'll see in a minute. Give it a moment. We'll see. So Beis Hillel says Masalikas atablikul menara, that you need to shake the table. You can't take those pieces off. Why? Because the muktzah. They started off for human consumption. Well, Beis Hillel says that there's muktzah. V'amar Rab Nachman, anu ein lanu ela Beishamai k'Rabbi Yehuda Beis Hillel k'Rab Shimon. Comes along Rab Nachman. He says, I know you read the Mishnah where Beishamai is lenient and Beis Hillel is strict, but that's not the Mishnah that I had. The way I was taught the Mishnah, Rab Nachman says, is the names were switched, where Beishamai is the strict one and Beis Hillel is the lenient one. Beishamai goes like Rabbi Yehuda, Beis Hillel goes like Rab Shimon. And
Rashi says that it's not an anonymous Mishnah, but the Beis Hillel, when he talks, it's like the force of the unanimous Mishnah.
Has the force of an anonymous Mishnah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. As we say, Beishamai doesn't. The Gemara tells us Beishamai b'makom Beis Hillel ain't a Mishnah. Beishamai doesn't count. Yeah, it's quite a statement. Okay, so now Pligi bar Ravacha bar Ravina. There's a machlekes between Ravacha and Ravina. Charama b'chol Shabbos kula halacha k'Reb Shimon l'barmi muktzah machmas miyas. One says that we always paskin like Reb Shimon except for one exception, and that's muktzah machmas miyas. If something is set aside because it's disgusting, you would never use this for anything. That's like we say, my new. What is that? That's set aside. Ner yashin. a earthenware lamp that already had oil in it, that becomes like gross to use. It's like pottery, that a flower pot that has an oil in it, you can't use it for anything. Another opinion says that even muktzah machmas miyas we go like Reb Shimon, which says that it's not muktzah, muktzah machmas iser, unless it's muktzah machmas iser. Now, don't get confused between kelim shemalachta leiser, a utensil that's like a hammer that's used for construction or something, to muktzah machmas iser. Muktzah machmas iser is something else. My Neil, what is muktzah machmas iser? What's an example? Ner shadlika b'beis Shabbos. If you lit a candle that Shabbos, you lit a lamp, so that fire is iser. So that lamp becomes muktzah because it's a base for the fire. So we paskin like Reb Shimon always, except for that one case where we won't paskin like Reb Shimon. But when it comes to muktzah machmas chisar kis, which is what we said before about the wood, very expensive wood, Reb Shimon agrees that it's considered muktzah. The Tanan, as was taught in the Mishnah, kelim nitalim b'Shabbos, all utensils, even kelim shemalachta le'isr, are allowed to be moved, even if it's a hammer, a screwdriver, a wrench, scissors, things that are used for malachas. You're allowed to move them on Shabbos. If you need the chair, if you're using it for a permissible activity, like to crack a nut or something. Chutz mi meser gadol, except for this big blade. That's muktzah machmas chisar and kiss. It has teeth on the blade, and the yated shel machresha, and the peg of the plow that goes into the ground, those are very sensitive, very delicate, and you would never use them for anything else. And so they are considered muktzah machmas chisar and kiss. So those are really muktzah. Everything else you're allowed to move. Now, some of the Rishonim say what we just did over here. We said that we're going to paskin in Shabbos like Reb Shimon. We listed out things of muktzah. There's actually 3 machlekes in between Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon and all of Masechta Shabbos. We wait for the last page to tell us what the halach is, and so like suspense, the drama of Masechta Shabbos. So it says. There's davar sheina miskaven. If you didn't intend for it, that's a machlekes Reb Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda. There's malacha shein tzrich legufa. If the malacha wasn't done for the same intention that it was in the Mishkan. And then there's muktzah. And in all of these halachas, we go like Reb Shimon. That's what how some Rishonim learn this. Okay, it's not necessarily so, but that's okay. The next Mishnah goes like this: Mefirin nedarim b'Shabbos. Okay, a husband and a father can annul the vows of a wife or the daughter or his daughter, a young girl, if they take a vow that would affect him. So he said can annul it, which means he says mufalach, I annul the vow. And it doesn't, we'll see how much time he has to do that. It's either 24 hours or till nightfall. You're allowed to do that on Shabbos. Interesting. What would the issues be? Well, it could be that there's a problem. Maybe it's a type of judgment. We don't do judgment on Shabbos. We come to writing, maybe discussing things that are on Shabbos. There's some issues there. Maybe it's a tircha. We'll see. And you're also allowed to go to a rabbi or a bezdin, 3 people, to annul a vow. The rabbi can annul a vow. The person takes a vow and then later regrets it. He can take it off. He explains why when I took the vow, I didn't realize that I was going to this and this or whatever. I didn't have all the information. Now I regret it. Not because something changed, but when I took the vow, I wasn't aware of that. So you're allowed to do that on Shabbos. Only if it's the vow, it has to do with Shabbos. Like he says, the vow is like, I'm not going to eat or something. So it affects Shabbos, he's allowed to annul it. Paikin Asamar, you're allowed to stuff up a window. Umaydin Esamatlis, you're allowed to measure a cloth to know if it's tamei, to see if something else, if the sheretz touches the cloth, if it's the right size, and it touched something else, then the tumah would spread from the sheretz to the cloth to whatever food. Umaydin es a mikveh, and you can also measure the mikveh for a mitzvah. Ma'aseh b'meyaviv shel Rabbi Tzadok, meyav shel ben Bitnus. There's a story in the days of the father of Rabbi Tzadok. Tzadok was someone that we're familiar with. He fasted before the destruction. Also in the days of Abba Shal ben Mitnus, what happened was they used a jug to stuff up a window. The kashu was a makida bigmi, and they tied a earthenware vessel on Shabbos with a reed. Leidem yesh begigis peseach tefach. If a jug that was cracked had a hole of a tefach in lab, if not, we'll wait for the Gemara to get the full picture of that. It's an interesting story. They did those things to measure it. From them you can see that you can stuff up a window, you can measure, and you can tie on Shabbos in certain instances. The Gemara has a question. Afara, when it comes to annulling a vow, when a father and a husband can annul the vow of either the wife or the daughter, it didn't tell us what the vow was. It said you can do it on Shabbos. When it came to asking the rabbi, it said it needs to be, the vow was relevant to Shabbos. What about the annulment? Is that relevant to Shabbos also? The difference between hatara and hafara. The rabbi permits it, and the husband annuls it. When it came to the annulling of the vow, it didn't tell us if it was a Shabbos relevant vow. So the Gemara asks, Hafara bein letzarech bein shlei letzarech. Over there, it doesn't matter. You're always allowed to annul it. The shailav, when it comes to permitting the vow with the rabbi, letzarech and shlei letzarech lai, then it's specific, only relevant to Shabbos. Mishamachi, and therefore kapalginu mehadadi. That's why it said it in two cases. If you look at the Mishnah, it says annulling you can do on Shabbos, and asking for permission could also be done on Shabbos. Why did it divide into two? It could have said annulling and asking, because the qualifications of each of them are different. Or maybe also the annulment needs to be only vows that are relevant to Shabbos. You can't just annul any vow that's relevant to Wednesdays on Shabbos. So why do you divide it into two cases? That's the same thing with the next case. Well, the person that does the annulling is different, so we divide it into different cases. Maybe, doesn't tell us. Tashima, come and listen. The Tani Zuti, the Beir of Papa, Mepir Nadar Shabbos Tzerich Shabbos. Zuti taught in the house of Rav Papa that you can annul vows on Shabbos only if they're relevant for Shabbos. See? It's only relevant vows for Shabbos. That's what you're not. Tzerich Shabbos in, Shleil Tzerich Shabbos is law. You're not allowed to annul it. Lishnachrina, there's another version of this question which comes out with a difference in halacha. When it says that you can take away vows, is that referring to both? But if it's not relevant for Shabbos, then you're not allowed to. Alma first nadar miyes liyes. What would that tell me? That would tell me like this. If a woman took a vow on Shabbos, the husband has 24 hours to annul the vow. So you don't annul the vow on Shabbos. Wait till Motzei Shabbos. Wait till Sunday morning. You can still annul it then. If the vow is not relevant for Shabbos, don't annul it on Shabbos. Or maybe maybe when it says that it's only things that are relevant for Shabbos, that's talking about when you go to the rabbi. When it comes to annulment of the husband, even if it's not relevant for Shabbos, you're not allowed to annul it. Why? That's because the first Nadarim is only while it's still day. Once it becomes sundown, nightfall, You can't annul it. So we would say like this, is that even though that vow that she took wasn't relevant to Shabbos, but the husband is still allowed to annul it on Shabbos, because after Shabbos he will have no possibility of annulling it, because you only have until sundown. So the Gemara Shaila is, how long does the husband have to annul the vow? Does he have 24 hours, or does he have till the day's over? And we're basing that question on the vow. Does the annulment of the vows on Shabbos have to be only vows that are relevant to Shabbos? If not, then that's because the only opportunity he has would be on Shabbos to annul it. So Tashema, come and listen. The Tani Reb Zutri Debei Rav Papi Mefir Nadar B'Shabbos Tzarech Shabbos means Tzarech Shabbos in Shleil Tzarech Shabbos Loi. Only relevant vows you're allowed to annul. What does that tell me? Alma first Dar Meisleis. That means that you're allowed to annul vows for 24 hours. That's why if it's not relevant, don't annul it now. You'll annul it Motzei Shabbos. Even after sundown, you can still annul it. Taisus over here says, don't have a girsa or v'hilchas ha'meisleis. This is not actually the halacha. Okay. Amar Ravashi. Ravashi says, "V'nantanana first and derm kol hayom, v'ish b'davar lahakal l'lahachim." Ravashi says, 1 second. We said that you can annul the vow all the day, and there's a stringency and a leniency. Leniency in Ketzad nadra leili Shabbos. If she took a vow Friday night, made for leili Shabbos v'yem Shabbos ad shetechshach, then it could be annulled until sundown, Shalosh Shudas time, right? Because you have until the end of the day. But afterwards you can't do it. So that means that you don't have 24 hours. You only have until sundown. The Gemara says Tanayi, the Tanya first and Kalayim. One opinion holds that you have until sundown. And Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon Amru Meisleis. Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Lezer say that you have 24 hours. So that's machlekes. So over here, Taisu says that Rabbi Hananel did not have the girsa of the hilchas and meisleis, that the halacha is 24 hours. Really, the halacha would only be that it's until sundown. Okay, can I go another few minutes till we get to?
Please do.
The MS. Okay, now the Gemara says, Mishalim l'nedarim. You can ask to annul the vows to the rabbi. Does that mean that you didn't have an opportunity before Shabbos, and now you want to do it on Shabbos? You didn't have a chance before Shabbos to do this. Or you did have an opportunity before Shabbos. You just pushed everything off. You postponed it till, I'll do it on Shabbos. I have a lot of time over there. So Tashema, come and listen. There's the Kikale Rabbanan the Rab Zutra, Breder Rab Zera, Visharle Nidari, Afagav Davu. The rabbis annulled the vow for Rab Zutra, Breder Rab Zera, even though he had time before Shabbos to annul it. That means that it doesn't have to do with if you had time before. It has to do with, is it relevant for Shabbos? You're allowed to annul it on Shabbos. This is an interesting Gemara. There's a lot of parts here to this Gemara. What happened was, let's go further. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Rav. Hilkati K'tanai Sabin Shnei Batim. There's an alleyway between two houses. With Tumah Haisasham, and there's a Tumah in the alley. Okay, so far no complications. Now above the alleyway is a tub, a barrel, a tub, that's going across the alleyway, and there's a crack in the tub. And down on the bottom is tumah, something impure, a piece of a corpse or something. Now, on the side of the houses, on the side in the houses are windows. Now, the corpse is directly under the crack in the tub. But it depends how big that crack in the tub is. If it's the size of a tefach, then the tumah spreads straight through the crack and goes straight up to the sky, but it doesn't make impure anything that's on the sides. But if the crack is not a tefach, then the tumah will then go through the wind, will spread out from underneath won't penetrate through the tub. Rather, it will spread sideways and it will end up going into the houses. It will make things into the house's tummy because there are windows there. So what happened was Pakwas Amar B'Tefiach. They used earthenware vessels that don't become tummy from the outside, only become tummy from the inside. And they pushed them into the windows of the houses to make the tumah not come into the house. The kashrus and makida b'gmei, and then they tied a type of vessel, which is 1 tefach wide, with a reed. Leidam yesham begigas pesach tefach and lav, and they dropped it through to see if it fit through that crack, to see if that crack was a tefach. So first they plugged up the sides to make sure that the house doesn't become tameh, and then they checked it to see what size it was. I'm not sure the timing in this, because when it should have gotten, the crack isn't getting bigger, I don't think. So the tumah should have gotten through before. I'm not sure about that. But one of the things that you see over here was that, okay, now let's read it. From this we learned, that was the end of the Mishnah. That we see that you're allowed to close up a window, you're allowed to measure, and you're also allowed to tie, because they tied it with the reed. The reason why they were allowed to tie it with the reed, because the reed was considered edible. It wasn't considered a real knot. It would be eaten off by an animal. It would fall off when it would dry. It's another point. Okay, Yitzi, you want to tell us about the Siyam?
Tonight at 6:30,